Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on what time you're accessing the video. Today we are doing social studies and we haven't really started social studies in grade 3 yet because when we were due to start the new unit, um, well, we all know what happened, and I'm about to give you a start in the lesson. So basically, unit that we're busy with now is unit number 4, which is called Making a Difference. We will be covering things like government structures in Saudi Arabia. What can the citizens do in Saudi Arabia to make the community a bit better? How can we work together? I'm sorry, I'm just reading off the book here. And then which organizations in our community make differences in our community to try and make lives better for everyone. So lesson number 1 is about government structures and what type of government structures we find in the world. So I'm going to take you through 3 different things or 3 different words that you might need to know, and then also a bit of an activity in a later lesson, and then also the structure of how the government is set up. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that I can actually show you, because I actually have a soft copy of your book. So it will make things a whole lot easier because it's got pictures and everything like that and interactive activities as well. So I'm going to share that. Just give me 2 seconds while I bring that up over here. Okay, so if you're following with me, let me just move my face out of the way. Here we go. So lesson 1 is basically on page number 76 in your student book of your social studies, and it's about government structures. So the 2 types of government structures that we mainly find in the world is basically a republic and a monarchy. So I'm not going to read the entire passages for you because you are able to read that yourself. I'm merely just going to speak to the points and make examples so it's easier for you to understand. Um, so a republic is basically, guys, you know, I'm from South Africa, and South Africa, where the country I'm from, is called a republic. So a republic is basically where people of the country, so I'm a citizen of a country, I get to make a decision based on who I feel should be the president of my country. So the people or the citizens, we are all citizens of a specific country. So the people or the citizens of the country vote. So they cost a little, they talk about casting a ballot. So they would write on a piece of paper and say that there would be a whole lot of different people on there, and they would just make a little cross inside one of them to choose which one they would like to be in power. So that is what happens in a republic. There's a national election that's held whereby people vote for the person who they want to rule or run the country, who we think would be the best person to run the country. So that's a republic. And also, when we are in a republic, a president or a prime minister is only allowed to serve or be a leader of a specific country for a specific amount of time. Like I know in most republics, like in America or South Africa, the general rule of thumb is that um, a president is allowed to serve a 4-year term. You can be a president or a prime minister for about 4 years. You can serve a second term whereby you serve another 4 years if the public and the people vote and say that they want you as their leader again, then yes, another 4 years. So in total, a maximum of 8 years in 2 separate terms are allowed in the republics like South Africa or America or any other countries that have presidents or prime ministers like Australia. So that is the maximum amount of time. So the time that a person spends as a leader or a president or prime minister of a country is called tenure, right? So that is this little word here. Let me just get my little laser pointer out for you quickly. Here we go. So that is this word here, tenure. So the tenure is basically the time that the person serves as a leader of a country, or the time the person has power in that specific country. Because you know, a president or a prime minister or even a king has quite a bit of power in a country. They have quite a bit of say. So the other type of government structure that we find is one that we find here in Saudi Arabia. We find it in a place like Monaco. We find it in a place like England as well, because that is known as a monarchy, where that specific country has kings, queens, princes, princesses, sultans, things like that. So I know Brunei has a sultan, the UAE has sheikhs. So that's basically part of a monarchy. You are born into royalty. So with a monarchy, how it is different from a republic is that a republic, people have to vote a person into power, but a monarchy is where you are born into royalty. You are of royal descent or royal blood. So our current king in Saudi Arabia is called King Salman bin Abdulaziz. He's been king since 2015, since January 2015. And a king of a monarchy is basically voted into that power by a specific council. And here in Saudi Arabia it is called the al-Baya, which is the council that selects the king. But also with a monarchy there is a line of succession whereby, for example, you know that King Salman's son is Muhammad bin Salman, who is the crown prince. He's next in line for the throne, so he's going to become king when his father is no longer with us. So that is the line. The line of succession can change. A monarchy can basically make up their own rules, so they can decide whether the king's brother will become the next king, or the king's son, or things like that. So they decide, but now the line of succession is from father to son, because King Salman will pass the throne or the kingdom unto Muhammad bin Salman, who is the crown prince. So that is a monarchy whereby a country is ruled by kings and queens or princes, and they are royalty. They come from a royal bloodline. And those are the two types of government structures that we find. The other thing that governs a country as well, that the citizens of a country like me and you, as well as kings and presidents and everyone in positions of power, they also need to follow specific rules. So every country has a set of rules that its citizens or its people or leaders have to follow as well, and that is known as the constitution. I'm just going to read you the definition. A constitution is a set of rules for a country, so that rules need to be followed by everyone in the country. And obviously here in Saudi Arabia, your constitution is governed by Islamic law or Sharia law, which means most of the rules and things come from the Quran and Islamic folklore. So all the rules that are followed in the country, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is dictated by the Quran and Sharia law, things that are Sunnah, things that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam followed or did, and basically Islamic law, right? In other countries, constitutions are set up by parliament, by the president and a cabinet of councilmen. So that is how the constitution is set up there. But here it's already set, because over here we have the Quran. In South Africa, for example, we have the Constitution, which is called the Bill of Rights. And then in America, they also have a constitution, which is known as the Declaration of Independence. So that is basically the laws that governs the country, whereby the citizens need to follow, the presidents, the leaders need to follow. So no one is exempt from the rules. Everybody has to follow rules in order for a specific country to flow and for nobody to do wrong. And so nobody gets hurt, right? We're just going to pop onto page 78 as well, which is the last page for the lesson, which is this page over here. How the government structures are set up in Saudi Arabia is at the very top of the pyramid, the person with the most power, he's not the most powerful, but the person with the most power in the country who has lots of decisions is the king, which is obviously King Salman. And then over here, which is just below him, is a council of ministers. And then below that is a consultative council. So the king, we know, is the king. And then the council of ministers is you get the minister of defense, the minister of interior, the minister of foreign affairs, who manages people that come into the country like me from another country, the minister of Islamic affairs, the minister of education, transport, health, agriculture, Hajj, and then also finance. So all of these ministers manage different departments of the country and make sure that collectively the country runs smoothly based on all of these different departments that have to work independently and also interdependently, which means working together. So like the minister of education works for the Ministry of Education. So a minister is a person, and a ministry is basically a department in the country. So a council or a branch of the government, right? But remember, minister is a person and the ministry is like a place or an organization. And then the consultative council is basically made up of either citizens or people that are family or descendants of the king, that will help the king and serve as advisors to the king. So those are basically government structures. I want to share another screen with you. So I'm going to stop this share quickly, and then I'm going to open up another one for you. My browser, let me just have a look. I'm going to quickly um, show you some pictures. Just Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Oopsie. KSA. Not monarchy, but council. Saudi council. Let's just block that. Let's go to images. I actually want to show you the people. So consultative council. Oopsie, sorry about that. Consultative council. So this is basically parliament in Saudi Arabia. This is made up of the people of head of state, like your king, your crown prince, your consultative council, which would be all of these people here sitting in parliament, which are advisors to the king. And then obviously in between this mix of people, you also have your ministers of your various ministries, like your Ministry of Education, which will have the Minister of Education, the Ministry of Finance would have the Minister of Finance. So this is your consultative council, basically. So that concludes the lesson for today. In our next social studies lesson, we'll basically have a little questions and answers in order for us to basically go through some of the definitions or the words that we need to know that this lesson was based on. So I will see you in our next lesson. Let me just stop the share.